Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2, episode 19 of my LinkedIn live series. I'm joined today by Red Stafstrom. You can probably guess why his name is Red here. He is known as the unsales guy. He's also a sales coach for Introverts, and he's also a podcast host as well. How are you doing today, Red?
Uh, All in one piece. Who could complain?
Oh, that is great.
Just so long as everything is together, even if it's duct taped on, like just it's all in one piece. We're good.
As long as it's working, right?
Exactly. If worst case, you go to Home Depot, you get new parts, and you're good.
hmm Yeah. So as a new homeowner, that really hits close to it's close here.
To wallet, yes, to
Yeah.
wallet.
Yeah. So shout out to my
So
friend for
congrats
thanks
on the
for
new
giving me
house,
a gift
actually.
card.
Then
What was that?
congrats on the new house.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, we've moved in almost 4 months now at this point. So it's yeah, I mean, at the first month, like every single day or week, it seemed like we were building something new. Now we're all fully settled in.
And it's going to be that way for your entire home ownership journey.
Yeah, yeah. So
We're literally rebuilding all the cabinets upstairs right now, so I
mhm,
understand that very, very well.
yeah, that's a lot of work too.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in one of those families where we don't pay for labor and we just buy the tools and do it ourselves.
hmm
Like I'm did brakes on my truck today. We're doing cabinets upstairs. We just do everything. That's just how we are.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I just paid a guy to caulk the downstairs because I know I do a terrible job at it, and I didn't want to be on my knees for that long, so I just paid someone else to do it.
I understand that too because I'm never like satisfied with the way that comes. I have no neatness whatsoever.
I don't have that type of patience or
Yeah.
carefulness, I guess. So.
Yeah, I understand that completely.
So, yeah, before we get into our topic today about introversion and sales skills, Red, you want to introduce yourself? What do you do and how do you help others?
Yeah, so obviously, Red Stafstrom, I run a business called Broken Salespeople. I do sales coaching, but it's different than most sales coaching that people are used to. It's not this Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, always be closing bullshit. It's very much focused on emotional intelligence, on building structure, on understanding things the right way, creating a healthy environment for salespeople, for customers, for companies, so that we aren't burning through salespeople the way we are right
Mm,
now. The employee churn and the turnover rate for salespeople is nearly triple the national average, and it's because of how toxic we've allowed sales to get,
mm.
particularly for introverts.
Yeah, I can see that. I think if you're in sales, you have to hit a certain quota. You have to,
Mhm.
you have to meet certain numbers at the end of the month or end of the quarter. And especially if you're not the extrovert person, like everyone rushes to you, in person, or you're just that person on the phone where just get excited about things. It's definitely I can see why it's definitely challenging.
Well, and it doesn't even matter just introvert versus extrovert. All salespeople are having problems with the industry in terms of hitting
Mm,
numbers because most of the numbers are just made up by bad managers anyway. I've seen statistics where it's as low as 24.3% who are exceeding quota.
mm,
So when you think about the environment that produces, like introverts tend to be more like emotionally attuned. We tend to have more empathy. And we're getting put into environments where 75% of us are failing. What kind of work environment does that create?
that is terrible. Yeah, that
But
and
but it's common.
and maybe even when you start your month or you start your quarter, you're like, I know this is not going to work. I know this number is way too high. It's way too ambitious to even reach.
Well, and the reason that happens is because we, as a culture right now, we're playing for the quarter. So we go to our manager, like at the end of the month, our managers say, well, what do you have in the pipeline that we can close right now? And so we pillage August's numbers for July's numbers. So all the things that need another week or two to kind of ferment, we take them now.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why we walk into the month with nothing in our pipeline and why we discount everything by 20% and make no money.
hmm
It's
So
common. It's a massive problem in our industry.
yeah. So before we get into more, oh, what was that?
No, nothing. I was yeah. No, this is a long diatribe that I could go down, obviously.
So before we get into the sales part here, I just want to highlight we're both introverts, right? So I've been doing a LinkedIn live stream every week for a year and a half now. I've been putting myself on LinkedIn for since 2017. Red, you have a podcast, you coach
Mhm.
people, but we're both introverts, right? So what do you want to add to that conversation? Saying, you can still be, good at public speaking. You can still put yourself out there, and you're still considered an introvert.
So for me, it's I want to say that social skills and introversion versus extroversion are almost not related at all. Like they really aren't. Like you could have great social skills whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. It's just extroverts tend to have more practice. When you dial it back and you look back to the original definitions of introvert versus extrovert, you go back to Carl Jung. Um, introvert Latin like intro vertier, verter. It means people who are inward facing, people who tend to spend a lot of time in their own heads. That doesn't mean that you're better at social or worse at social interactions any more than it means you're good or bad at basketball. There may be a correlation, but there's not necessarily a causation.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be an introvert and be good at any of it. It's just a matter of practice, learning the methods, understanding how to structure things and put yourself in the best possible position.
Mm-hmm.
I like these LinkedIn lives. I like podcasts. What I don't like as an introvert is that group of 4 or 5 people. That's when I get stressed out. When there's enough people that all you can do is make small talk, and you need to play that game of double dutch to see when you're going to jump into the conversation. That's what stresses me out as an introvert, not this.
Yeah. I can totally get that, right? And like, I agree with you. LinkedIn Lives, I can hop on anytime. You want me to be as a guest, I can hop on, no problem at all. And it's funny you mentioned like, when you have more than 4 or 5 people. Yesterday we took the dog to our dog park here. And I mean, it was a crazy day because it was like usually there's maybe like 4 or 5 dogs and then like their owner. So at most you there's like 6 to 7 people, right? It's like one person per dog. But yesterday it was like 8 to 10 dogs, and then like people brought their families over, and it was like 30 people there. And I'm just like, there's so much stuff going on. There's balls flying everywhere. Like I gotta, where's my dog? I make sure they close the gate when people are coming in because none of these people are dog owners. They just showed up. So it was just, yeah, I was just like, okay, I need to get out of this
And
situation.
and generally speaking, introverts get overwhelmed with that level of outside stimulus. Like the best way I've heard it explained is everybody has that level of like water pressure that we're used to. And whether you're an introvert or an extrovert depends on how much you want to have. Some of us want a babbling stream, some of us want the Hoover Dam with these blasts of water coming at us. And what water level are we all comfortable with? Like for me, let's say you're at home alone and you're reading. It's Friday night like it is now, and you're home alone, you're trying to chill out and just read, but eventually you start to get bored. Then you decide to give your friend a call, you go out and you say, "Okay, I want to have a quiet coffee with my friends." Now you're at that right level. Now you have the water flow where you want it. But your friend is bored. So your friend says, "Hey, let's go to this party," and now you're overwhelmed. It's about where is everybody on this Goldilocks equation.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Yeah, because I can totally see that. When I tell people who are really introverted, who are really shy. I don't want to use the word introvert, but who are really shy and
Yes.
don't like to be, who don't like going to networking events. I tell them, hey, just go to a networking event, set a goal. I'm going to talk to 5 people and then leave. Right? Just set that
Yes.
small goal, and then the next event you will say, hey, maybe I'll talk to 10 people, maybe I'll talk to 20 people, and that goes perfect with the analogy you said, right? So you set that little stream of water. Okay, 5 people, and if it gets a little too overwhelming, all right, you're good. Come back next time. You maybe get a little more. You build up more. You can handle more pressure. It's a water analogy as well. You can handle a little
Yeah.
more pressure that way as well.
And that's a major problem with like you kind of inadvertently hit on a sales industry issue too. Is what so many managers do is they keep dialing up the numbers higher and higher and higher. And what I do with most of my clients is actually dial it lower. And
Mhm.
rather than making 50 phone calls a day, I say take the time and do your research. Figure out the people who are your ideal clients, figure out if they would fit your model, and then reach out to the 25 who would be superstar clients rather than 50 people who may not even answer the phone, may
Hmm.
not be a fit for you, whatever. Like if your strength is researching and putting your nose to the grindstone and understanding everything, then do that first.
Hmm.
Put yourself in a position where your strengths dictate the outcome.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to our next topic here. Can an introvert be good at sales? Right, I think we all have that stereotypical vision, or like we think a salesperson. Those people, knock on your door. They're super excited. It's like, oh, buy this product. This is the best decision you can make. But not all of us can be like that. So, what are your thoughts here? Can an introvert be good at sales?
So they could be better at sales. And I'm going to go like, I want to explain the way that perception has come into play. The idea that you need to be this ultra gregarious, hail fellow, well met kind of personality. And it's false. Um, Everybody knows who Dale Carnegie is in the business world, how to win friends and influence people. The thing most people don't understand at this day and age is what society was like when he was becoming popular. He so How to Win Friends and Influence People was published in 1936. Sigmund Freud's book on psychoanalysis only came out 20 years earlier than that in 1917. So psychology as a science was only around for 19 years when How to Win Friends and Influence People came out. There was not a single science related book, like with actual social science and research put into it, until the 1980s with Influence by Robert Cialdini. So the people who created followings were these extroverts. The people who wrote these books and did these speeches and taught sales were just the loudest among us, quite frankly. And the people who were able to influence sales just by force of will and force of charisma. It wasn't researched, there wasn't anything tactical to it. It was people who, in many cases, were just bullies. And that's where we have all of this closing statement bullshit that we have out there.
Hmm.
Introverts have a unique strength in that we can do research. We are often authentically curious, which I think is one of the best strengths for anyone who does complex sales, anything more than one call close. Like that bully technique works really well if I'm selling you cars on a car lot, or if I'm selling you a TV at Best Buy, and I know if you walk out my door, there's a 90% chance I'll never see you again. But in a world where relationships matter, which is
Mm.
B2B sales, enterprise sales, you want somebody who can teach you something about your business, somebody who knows the field so well that they give you something every time you talk to them. And that's like the challenger sale model uses that. It's teach, tailor, take control. Like there's a lot of sales models that use that almost more educational mindset rather than bully, take control, like force it down your throat style.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, it's more about summarizing what you said. It's more about building connections, building those relationships. Because again, it's like, why do I want, why do I want to buy from you, or why do I want you as my coach? And you see this on LinkedIn a lot. You connect with the people, you connect with the person, you connect with the coach, right? They may not be the most experienced, have the all the credentials, but they connect with you, right? They know what your pain points are. They've been through your pain points, and they can help solve whatever challenge you're facing with today. And I agree with you there, right? Because it's a
But
long term
I'm going
relationship. It's not just a
to
one time thing.
argue on the relationship side actually. So let's kind of mentally draw like an XY axis, like draw a four squared grid. Up
Hmm.
down at the bottom left is bad relationship, no competence. Like people who are incompetent and you have a bad relationship with. And up at the top corner is great relationship, super competent. Everybody wants to work with people they like and who are great at what they do. Nobody wants to work with somebody who they hate and are as bad at what they do.
Hmm.
But what's interesting is on the wings. So when you look at great relationship, but bad at what they do, you don't get a sale.
That's true.
That's your aunt who tries to talk you into a multi level marketing firm. Like that, like, well, you need to start selling Herbalife with me. Like that's the person you love, but you're like, no, I'm not here to sell crystals on the internet. Like that's as much as I love you, Tina, that's not where I want to be.
Yeah.
The people with the bad relationships but are great at what they do, how many of those describe our major corporations in the world? I
Yeah.
don't like Amazon. I don't like Walmart. I had packages from Amazon here today, and I went to Walmart today.
Yeah. But you just have to
So
put up to it.
it's so, and that's one of the reasons why I think introverts have such a strength in sales is even though we can build a relationship, what the factor of that relationship, the underlying cause of it is our competence. So we don't need to be these beloved figures. We just need to show that we're more effective than anybody else.
Mm.
So by showing that competence, we actually increase the chance of the sale more than just being a friendly, likable guy.
Yeah, I get that. We talked about this earlier here. We talked about the kind of the bullying, trying to have unrealistic numbers. What else do you think is wrong with sales today?
I think a lot of it is built the wrong way, particularly the book that I'm reading right now. I've got like 20 minutes left of the audiobook. The Man Who Broke Capitalism by Jack Welch, and it's about Jack Welch.
Mm,
Um, the biggest problem I see is the focus on short-term money, like short-term growth, over long-term sustainability.
mm,
So in sales, we're having to push people in order to hit our numbers for the quarter, but they may not be a sustainable client for the long term. So we're wasting all of this time onboarding somebody who's going to be gone in 3 months in order to
mhm.
hit like a customer attainment number or whatever. It's the focus on monthly and quarterly and even yearly rather than trying to figure out things long term. It's creating toxic, impossible to survive in conditions.
Mhm.
That would probably be the big one that takes out all of it.
Yeah,
Almost everything else is a symptom of that mindset, that disease.
yeah. I can see that. I think the perspective I see the problem you mentioned. Yeah, so I have an engineering background, right? So yeah, if something
Mhm.
breaks, if you're in a rush to meet numbers or meet a deadline, you just throw a band-aid on it. But
Yes.
you can't keep throwing band-aids on it because what's going to happen 2 years from now, 5 years from now? There's so many band-aids on it, and they're recurring problems. They're going to keep showing up. You can't just keep slapping a band-aid on it. So it's you need those. I
And
think this is where introverts can come in, right? Because they have a different way of looking at problems. They have a different perspective. They're
mhm.
better at listening as well, so they can kind of see and hear all the different perspectives, see what the challenges are, and say, you know what, let's not try to fix it just to fix it today, but let's think about long term, right? How can we sustain this? How can we continue to, have this client or have this customer come back every single year for the next few years?
So, and one of the ways that we're fixing everything in the corporate world is this brainstorming idea. And they've done studies and found that brainstorming doesn't create better results than simply asking people questions and seeing how many ideas they come up with. In fact, it produces worse results because people with a little bit of social anxiety don't speak up.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
what also happens is the person who's the most aggressive will shoot down every other idea in the room and just kowtow to whatever they believe, even if it's not the best idea.
Hmm.
But we've built this culture so much towards extroverts that we have to start moving things back so that we have some balance in the world.
Hmm.
I'm not saying introverts should run everything, but if we ran more, things would be better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why inclusion is so important, right? It's not just
Yes,
inclusion of
100%.
gen yeah, it's not just inclusion of gender, race, it's all, backgrounds, experiences, perspectives, experiences, everything like that, right? So, that's a big part. Can't just have all extroverts on the team or all introverts. You need a good mix of people.
Some of my favorite business ideas that I've ever written about or come across came from some of the weirdest places you could ever. Like I've done podcasts about the Spanish Civil War and John Rawls and philosophy and the veil of ignorance. Like you have no idea where a good idea is going to come from. And
Mhm.
by forming a group of all Dale Carnegie clones or Neil Napoleon Hill clones, you're limiting the number of options and the solutions you're going to get.
All right. Let's go on to our last topic here. Um, Taking everything we said about what's wrong with sales today, talking about how introverts can be better at sales. How can you be an effective salesperson, whether you're an introvert or extrovert or somewhere in between?
I I, I wholeheartedly believe it's authentic curiosity. That's really the big one. Is wanting to, as much as we like to paint all customers with the same brush, they absolutely aren't. Not in any sense of the word. Even in very small niche marketing demographics, you still find subtle changes for everybody. Being authentically curious about what your customer's doing, what problems they're facing, excuse me, what problems they're facing, what headaches they have, and really wanting to dive into those and solve that problem makes you an authentic and great salesperson. It's not word tracks, it's not scripts, it's not any of it. It's authentically wanting to help and wanting to understand, which is
Mm,
why introverts have the edge that I really believe they do.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's very important. Always ask questions, understand their pain points,
Mhm.
right? Don't just immediately sell your product to them, right? It might not even apply to them, but if they have a specific pain point and your product aligns, or you can, slightly adjust your product to solve their pain point, it just really makes that connection, makes that relationship. Then you got something long term as well with this potential client or customer.
And being open about it if you don't even know. Some of the best cold calls I've ever done, I flat out said right at the beginning, I have no clue if I could help you. With but within 3 questions I could know for sure.
Hmm.
And saying that openly and honestly and saying, listen, I just need the answer to these 3 questions and I'll be able to figure out if it's worth the rest of our time.
Hmm.
But that hitting them right with, I'm not going to bully you into something. I'm not going to force yourself into a corner where, oh, because you said yes to this, you now have to say yes to this $3,999 product.
Yeah.
Because that's how many sales scripts are set up that way. Hey, do you like water? Do you like clean water? Well, I have this water filter. It cleans everything out, cleans out all the particles. It's only $39.99. Now, do you want it Wednesday or Thursday?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little extreme, but that's the way a lot of sales scripts are written. It tries to force people into yes, 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 and then continuing the yes.
And I mean, you have to say yes, right? Some of these questions are what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? They're just hypothetical questions.
Mhm. Well, the term, and again, to kind of talk back to when I come up with ideas and you have no idea where good ideas are going to come from, the term that resonated with me actually comes from policing. And it's a term I came familiar with during the Black Lives Matter protest. It's called kettling. And what happens is when police are dealing with the protest, they will actually start kind of closing in the walls of where a protest can go, and it often creates a reaction because if you're a
Hmm.
protester and you're in this scenario where you're having riot police crush in on you, it's going to trigger an adrenal response, fight, flight, freeze.
Hmm.
And that's what we're doing in sales is we keep trying to trap people in these smaller and smaller and smaller squares, and then we wonder why fight, flight, freeze happens. Fight, they start arguing, they start throwing out objections. Flight, they leave, they hang up or say, I need to think about it. And then freeze is just let me talk to somebody else.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely, understand what your clients or what your customers' needs are, right? Before you jump right in, make your pitch, make
Mhm.
your sale there. Um, so, Red, thank you so much for sharing your insights about introversion. We shared, who we are as introverts. We talked about introverts can be good at sales, having that genuine curiosity, or what was the right term there?
Yeah, authentic curiosity.
Authentic curiosity. Yep. And then we talked about what's wrong with sales today with the unachievable numbers just off the bat. I want to give you the last couple minutes here to make your plug. I know you have a podcast. I know you have a website. How do you help others?
So again, obviously sales coaching. Broken salespeople you could find on any of the major platforms, brokensalespeople.com. You can find all sorts of free training blogs on there, find free training videos, youtube.com/broken salespeople. you could just connect with me on LinkedIn, Red Stafstrom. Mine is the one with the little lion emoji on it because my last name sounds like IKEA furniture and can be tough to find. That's who I am. And I'm also finishing up a course for introverts. So make sure you connect with me now because that sales course for introverts should be coming out hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna put your LinkedIn profile on here, but I think you put the emoji in there. It's just a bunch of random characters, so I can't put that on the
Yeah,
screen.
which is perfectly fine. Like brokensalespeople.com or youtube.com/broken salespeople. Just as good. Lots of places you could find me. I'm
Great.
I'm giant and orange. I am not easy to lose track of.
So yeah, Red, thank you so much again for sharing your insights. Are there any final words or final thoughts you want to leave our audience with?
I mean, this was great. However, I can help people out. Just let me know. That's what I'm here for.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Make sure you go to brokensalespeople.com, connect with Red Staffstrom on LinkedIn as well, get in touch with them. And again, thank you everyone for joining, for watching. If you're watching on replay, leave a comment, and I'll talk to you all next week.